Hawks Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the HawksFanTV podcast. I'm your host, Mac, joined by my co-host, Alex, and we are so excited to be here with you this week because we're excited every week, but this week is a fun week for Hawks fans. We're on a 3-game winning streak as we record this episode here on November 2nd. Our last 3 wins come against the Bucks, Timberwolves, and the Wizards. We averaged 128 points in those games, so that's pretty darn good. Quinn's offense is definitely rolling right now, and things are looking good, man. So, Alex, how are you feeling?
Hey, you can't complain too much, Mac. A rough, shaky start to the beginning of the season, going 0-2, which is unfortunate. Looking back on it, we honestly should be 5-0. But hey, you can't change the past. We're 3-2 since then. So yeah, I think things are going good. I feel like the players are really starting to settle into their roles, and I think the Quinn offense and the Quinn ball movement is slowly but surely coming together. And I think it's only going to get better as the season progresses. So I'm excited. It's good vibes right now.
Oh yeah, no man. Like you said, Quinn's offense is rolling. We are currently second in the league in scoring right now, so can't be too upset with that. And we're third in the East in the standings. So I mean, I know it's early in the season, but can't be too disappointed when you look at the standings and you see us right there. So I will say we're 21st in 3-point attempts so far this season. I'm only bringing that up because I do very much expect that number to rise as the season goes on. I think that is something that Quinn, you've heard all of our players say that he just is constantly preaching, just shoot the three, shoot the three, shoot the three. So I do expect us to have more 3-point attempts going forward, but yeah, no, I'm really just bringing up that stat because it was a little shocking that we were as low as we were, but the game has changed. Every team is going to emphasize a 3-point shot at this point. But that 3-point shooting percentage was a lot better in game 3 and game 4 for us. I know in the first game, I think we shot like 17% from 3 or
Yeah, it
something.
was terrible.
It was awful. But game 3 and game 4, we were both above, I think 40% for both of them, which is awesome for a team. And yeah, no, the 3-point shooting is going to keep falling, guys. I think if there's anything at all that we can kind of point at is maybe cause of concern is the 3-point shooting, but that I'm telling you will improve. That's just going to come as the season goes. You get more into the season and they just start falling easier. And it's a perfect segue into the main point I want to talk about, which is our superstar, Trae Young. Trae is leading the league in assists like he always does, leading the league in free throws made, because there's no one that gets to the line like Trae Young at this point, man. You mentioned that last episode. There's no one that gets to the line like he does. He's 5th in the league in assist percentage, which for all you advanced stats guys out there, that's a pretty advanced stat with the calculations that go into that one. So being 5th in that is incredible. But 2nd in the league in, missed field goals, right behind Tyler Hero. No shot at Hero. Just think it's funny that after all the stuff that guy said this offseason, he's leading the league in missed field goals. But yeah, no, I'm honestly bringing that up with a smile on my face because I do not anticipate whatsoever that will continue to be an issue for Trae. Trae at this point, it's kind of a known thing, doesn't get up to the hottest start, shooting-wise, scoring-wise at least. But we're 3-2. He is playing great basketball. If you only just look at his points, which I know a lot of basketball fans, or at least the lower level basketball fans, that's what they're going to look at. But guys, I'm telling you, Trae Young is. I said it going into the season. I was more the team MVP for my guess, but at this point, man, I think I may change it to Trae Young is going to be in MVP conversations. I will go ahead. I know that's a little bit of a hot take, but I'm going to say that right now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go that far just yet because I do think his efficiency needs to definitely improve vastly. But as you mentioned, Mac, a lot of people are going to be box score watchers. They're going to see, oh, well, he shot, 5 of 20 today or, 4 of 16, whatever the case may be. And yeah, from that standpoint, it's not the best, but as we talked about on previous episodes, he's getting to the line. He's putting pressure on the defense. And the playmaking, I cannot emphasize the playmaking enough. He's getting all of his teammates involved. He's setting up the offense for easy, high percentage shots, open shots. Honestly, he should have a few more assists, but people like Clint Capella and some of our other players aren't just converting on those open looks just yet. But as the season progresses, I do think that percentage is going to go up. But yeah, I mean, Trae, in terms of just initiating the offense and setting up the guys and finding those open looks, that's what Trey does best. And Trey has even emphasized that in the past, where assists is his favorite statistic. Like, yeah, the point per game is nice and getting 30 or 40, 50 points is really cool and all, but he himself said it best. Like the assists, the playmaking, that's like the favorite part, his favorite part of the game. So uh that's good to see. And that's what makes Trey so special is you have all these other types of point guards where you have really high scoring point guards or low scoring point guards that can get a lot of assists. Trey can do both at an elite level. So when his shot isn't falling as well as we'd like to, he's still impacting the game with his playmaking, his ability to draw fouls, put pressure on the defense, get to the line. But he's like a top 2 passer in the league, man. Like I know we sound a little biased because we're Hawks fans, but when you actually watch him play, like the play he had last night where he beat his man off the dribble, attacked the basket, and there was like 4 guys surrounding him right under the rim, and he somehow wrapped around and threw a pass behind a defender's back for a wide open DJ 3-point attempt, and that went in. But like stuff like that, like that's not normal. You don't see passes like that. The way he's able to process the game, the way he knows like where each player is going to be or where he can anticipate a player is going to move to a certain spot. Like there's no better player in the league that does that at as high of a level as Trey Young does in terms of his passing. So it's great, man. It's great. And once his shot does start falling, like last night was actually a pretty solid game because he started off really hot. I think he started the game 4 for 5 from the field, with 1 of 2 from 3. But yeah, man, like his playmaking is just incredible. So that's what's always going to be a factor, his passing. Like if a shot's not falling, he's never not going to be able to play make. And that's what makes him so dangerous. And that's why we're also winning games. Like, yeah, Trey's shot's not falling, but we're winning these games because he's making life easier for our other players to get easy buckets. So I'm happy.
Oh yeah. No, I'm thrilled, man. And you kind of reiterated exactly what I was getting at. The shot is going to fall, man. Like I'm positive Trey Young's efficiency will get there. His scoring will get there. One of my notes is 40 burger should be coming soon. You know what I mean? Like I'm not worried about Trey Young scoring. And I guess I should say that the people that would vote for him for MVP are the same people that are constantly trying to make him out to be this bad guy. So he probably won't win the MVP this year, but still, I was more getting at the level of play that he's playing at. I guess I should have rephrased it to, I think this may be the best basketball this season that we'll see Trey Young play to this point in his career. So I'm excited, man. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year.
No doubt.
Quinn is making all the difference, man. And speaking of Quinn, the rotations that we've had this year so far, I've actually loved them, man. I would like to see AJ get a little bit more minutes, but there's only one game where he's got over 10 minutes. But at the end of the day, man, at least in recent years, these championship winning teams, they don't have 9, 10, 11-man rotations. They probably do have an 8-man rotation, and it's 8 incredibly solid dudes that are more than likely playing at the prime of their careers, like we have with the Trey Young and Ajante. And you could argue Bogey as well, playing at his prime the last couple of years, especially with the World Cup this last summer. So really, man, the 8-man rotation of Trey Young, DeJounte, DeAndre, Sadiq, Jalen, Clint, Onyeka, and Bogey. That is one of the most solid 8-man rotations in the league. Like that's something that the Hawks don't get a ton of love nationally. But if you do go listen to some national media, they will say that the Hawks do have a very deep bench. So,
absolutely. And like I've jumped on other people's podcasts, and I've spoken to some other people, other content creators and reporters that aren't Hawks fans, and they're starting to reiterate the same thing. Like, yeah, maybe like our top end talent isn't as good as some of these other elite teams. Like, yeah, we have Trey, we have DeJounte, and then it's kind of like a big drop off after that. Although DeAndre Hunter is kind of rising to that level, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, in terms of just overall depth and talent, that 8-man rotation that you mentioned, Mac, that's really, really solid. Like we have 8 starter quality players that we're rotating in and out at all times of the game. And I can't think of many teams that have 8 legitimate starter level players that are getting minutes. And that also reflects in the stat sheet because we're one of the few teams. I think we're the only team in the league right now, and I could be wrong, that we have 8 different players averaging double figures, 8 different players averaging double figures, which just speaks to the testament of like how deep this roster is. And then yeah, once you get past the 8 man rotation, like AJ Griffin is kind of that like fringe guy where he's playing a little, but like you mentioned, he's not even really averaging 10 minutes a game. And he's our 9th man off the bench. So our first 8 is solid, and I don't anticipate Quinn changing that anytime soon, barring any injury. But like, I know a lot of fans were really excited about like Muhammad Gay and Kobe Buffkin. I don't think we're going to see much playing time from those guys. I think this 8 man rotation that you see now is most likely going to be solidified. With AJ, slowly but surely creeping up on some minutes, but I think that core 8 is going to be the most likely scenario that we see pretty much until the postseason.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. And exactly like you said, barring the occasional minor injury that I'm sure one of our players will have at some point in the year, they're not going to stay completely healthy all 82 games. That 8 man rotation, man, it just it's very early in the season, but if we can continue playing the solid basketball that we're playing with this 8 man rotation, we're gonna be scary in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. I know it's literally November 2nd, so I'm not trying to get too ahead of myself, but
Yeah. Let's wait
yeah.
on the playoff talk.
I'm just saying though,
Let's just hold
that
off on
that that rotation will be scary, man, because it's also a rotation of guys that what is this, the third year they've all been together at the least, excluding AJ. Like,
Yeah, AJ and Sadiq. Yeah.
Oh, Sadiq, you're right. I forgot about Sadiq. Excluding Sadiq, all of these guys at a minimum have been together for the last 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they truly do have some chemistry. We were there on media day, man. Onyeka and Jalen were boys, dude. It was hilarious watching them interact with each other because you could tell, like, when you're friends with somebody, you're like, I guess when you're pals with somebody, you're nice to them and you're polite. But then when you're like boys with somebody, you're messing with them the entire time. You're joking
Yeah.
with them. You're calling them out on stuff. And
And you see that on the court too, Mac. Like those lineups where JJ and Onyeka are both playing, like the offense, the defense, everything runs smoother in my opinion. And I know a lot of fans are advocating for Onyeka to start and Jalen to start. But I do eventually think there will be some games where Quinn does give Onyeka the starting nod. It's still early in the season, and even though Clint Capella is missing a lot of bunnies that we're accustomed to seeing, he still makes an impact on the boards, rim protection. So those things can't go under the radar. But yeah, I'm excited. And another thing about Quinn that a lot of fans were upset about that I saw on Twitter last night was the fact that we were 2-0 when JJ was starting at the 4, and then we played the Wizards last night, and then Quinn changed the starting lineup back to the original starting lineup on opening night, where he put Sadiq Bey at the 4. And I know a lot of people were scratching their heads, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people like, yo, why are we taking Jalen out? He's been balling for us. But I think this just speaks to the IQ of Quinn. Like against a young, fast team like the Wizards, he probably wanted a little bit more spacing. The Wizards out Daniel Gafford. They're not too big in size. So I think he just wanted Sadiq to start to space the floor a little bit more. But we still won the game. We blew them out. So that's a refreshing thing to see, is the fact that your head coach is flexible and can identify matchups and what players to start and what not to start. But like even with that, Jalen was still got 24 minutes last night, so it's not like he played a minor role coming off the bench. So it's good to see, man. Like we're so used to Nate like being so stuck in his ways and like it's my way or the highway. This is the starting lineup, and I'm not going to change anything. But it's refreshing to see Quinn, who's actually a smart basketball coach, like pick up on these little things and tinker and iterate the starting lineup. So it's nice. I love it.
Oh yeah. No, man, I love it too. And you said something during your comment about some people campaigning for Onyeka to be a starter. I think I probably am falling under that category at this point. You're probably going to guess the answer, but Alex, do you know who is leading the lead in offensive rating at this point in the season?
I do not.
Onyeka Okongwu, man. He is the dude is a stud. This is me not saying that I don't want Clint to have substantial minutes, because I do, because Clint Capella, man, he may not make it on that first attempt by the rim, but he is going to get that offensive board. I swear, every single time he missed, he's right there tipping it back in. Like, because you're right, man. Clint can control the boards. He is dominant at that. You've seen him go up against some of the best in the league, and he'll still be out rebounding them on the night. So, I don't want Clint to not play at all. I just kind of want the roles to switch, if that makes any sense. Where Onyeka's a starter, maybe he gets the additional 5 to 7 minutes a game over Clint. But again, as you were kind of just saying, Quinn is such a cerebral coach at the end of the day that, like, as a fan, dude, I'm going to trust his judgment on this. You know what I mean? Until he honestly, like Nate did, because, I'm going to stick up for Hawks fans about Nate real quick. We did not dislike that guy from the jump. We actually loved him. And we started to dislike him when we realized his coaching decisions just didn't make any sense. And when they didn't make sense and something bad happened, he had absolutely no accountability for it. So just saying, Quinn, right now he's done absolutely nothing, actually the opposite, to make me feel that, oh, dude, like, I can't trust his decisions with these rotations, or I can't trust his decision on who to start, because exactly like you said, man, the head scratching move of starting Bay over Jalen last night. Well, then you said, they're missing Gafford. They're going to be a little smaller. They're a little bit younger of a team. We need to space the floor a little bit more. And, honestly, that's probably what we're going to see a lot for the season here at the 4. I really do think that, come the 75th game of the season, or the end of the season, that it's probably pretty split on who started at the 4. I think the only way one of them actually solidifies that starting spot and is the, undisputed starter is if obviously either one of them just start going off, which at this point, if that's going to happen with one of the two, I would think that would probably be Jalen. But again, I'm okay with kind of the approach of, the 4 is a little bit of a rotating spot right now, because going into the season, that was probably the biggest question mark on our roster, was who is going to be starting at the 4. So I'm okay with it. It's, still early in the season. We'll get that figured out.
Yeah. And, and at this point, as long as we're winning games, like, it doesn't, and I said this on our weekly Spaces show, it's like, you don't really need, like, I think the term starter gets a lot of emphasis, but, like, if Sadiq's starting one game and Jalen's closing out and he's playing better, he's going to play more minutes. Quinn has shown that now, that whoever's the hot hand or whoever's playing better that night is going to get more minutes. Fun fact for you guys, so far 5 games into the season, both Jalen Johnson and Sadiq Bey are exactly playing the exact same minutes, evenly distributed. They're both playing, what was the number? 28.4 minutes per game for Jalen, 28.4 minutes per game for Sadiq Bey. So again, Quinn Snyder's doing a really good job just kind of balancing between the two. It depends on who's hot, who's not. But overall, like, you can't be upset at the way he's handling these rotations. Like, they both bring different things to the table, right? Sadiq, obviously a better, more cerebral 3-point shooter. Jalen is kind of a jack of all trades with his defense and his rebounding and his playmaking. And in my opinion, he's like top 5 most exciting players out in transition right now. And I like when him and Trey and DeJounte are all paired up together running that fast break. That's something that he does way better than Sadiq. So we'll see what happens. Jalen's actually leading the team in field goal percentage right now. So Jalen Johnson is actually number 1 on the team. He's shooting the ball 62.2% from the field, which is fantastic. Our second leading field goal percentage shooter is DeAndre Hunter at 55.5%. So Jalen's great, man. He's really doing exactly what we need him to do. I would like to see him take more shots and shoot more shots and drive to the paint a little bit more. Because even though he's averaging the highest field goal percentage, he actually has the lowest shot attempts out of most guys. So he's only averaging 9 field goal attempts per game. You compare that to Trey at 17, DeJounte at 16.5, Dre at 12, Bogey at 10, Sadiq at 8. So yeah, hopefully, as that field goal attempts rise up, Jalen will ultimately score more points too. So yeah, all in all, you can't be mad. Like, I'm super happy and pleased with what we've seen with Quinn in his rotation so far.
Oh yeah. No, just one last little quick thing on it. The way I kind of viewed it is, like when an NFL team will do like a running back committee, right? There's obviously a starter on the depth chart, but if you look at the total number of carries, the starter got 12, the second stringer got 11, and then third stringer got like 9 or something, right? Like, that's kind of how I'm viewing Sadiq and Jalen right now, where, we're just, it's a committee at the 4 right now. And honestly, it's working for us. So I don't see why we need to make any change.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we'll wrap up this episode on just a quick little preview of our next 3 games. Our next 3 games are all going to be on the road. The last one is actually in Mexico City against the Orlando Magic. As I've said before, I'll say it again. I just think that is so incredibly cool to be put on the international stage like that, and it'd be a regular season game at that. But the other 2 are against the Pelicans and the Thunder. All 3 of those teams are either at 500 or above 500, with the Magic being the only one that's at 500. And Magic and Pelicans are both top 10 in defense. So, well, currently at least, obviously that could change by the end of the season. But so honestly, man, it should be a nice little,
It's going to be a good test. It's going to be a good test.
A nice little test, man. So, I predict us, if I have to offer prediction, probably going 2-1. Because of the teams we're playing, winning all 3. I don't want to sound too biased with my prediction.
Right.
So I see us going 2-1, probably dropping one of them. The only note I'll say on it real quick before I hand it over to you, the Timberwolves actually do lead the league in scoring defense right now, and we just dropped, 130 on them or 127 on them. So point being is I'm not too worried about the Magic leading the league in defense right now. So
yeah, and funny enough, I think the Magic are actually probably going to be the toughest test. Good young team. They have a lot of young talent, and they're just playing like fearless basketball right now. And we saw it, like they pushed who was it, the Lakers to like the brink. So yeah, they're a good team. I think that's going to be a good test. But yeah, I think not only these next 3 games, but the stretch of the next 5 games is going to be a good litmus test to see kind of where this team is. And the last thing I want to mention, just because I have to show him some love, because I've been very critical of his game, is number 12, DeAndre Hunter. If you guys have followed HawksFanTV on Twitter for a while, like I've been fairly critical of Dre over the years, right? And rightfully so. I think it was justified because we took him 4th overall, and he just didn't quite live up to the hype. And sure, you could blame that on Lloyd Pierce. You can blame that on Nate McMillan, on the developmental stunt. But right now, this season, man, he's our 3rd leading scorer on elite efficiency. He's averaging 18 points per game on 55% shooting and 40% from the 3. Last night was a really good example of why I'm buying stock into Dre. Number 1, last season, if Dre got off to a really slow start and he wasn't getting calls, and he was like 1 of 5, 1 of 6 from the field, that kind of trickled over into the second half, right? And he wasn't really making that much of an impact. Last night, he started the game 1 and 7 from the field, and then right after that, he got a couple of easy and 1 opportunities, of course, that were set up by Trae Young. And after those 2 and 1 plays, I think he kind of really took over, especially in that 4th quarter when they were making that little fake comeback, and Dre was making some tough shots. Like he was ISO, spotting up and pulling up off the dribble, draining threes, posting up fadeaway shots in the mid range. He looked great. And if we get this type of Dre moving forward for the full 82 game stretch, then I think this team is going to be really special. And not only is his point per game production going up and his efficiency is through the roof, but he's also chipped in 5 rebounds. That was one of the big knocks that I had on him in previous years, was he's 6'8", 230, a really long, tall, freakish athlete, but he's not getting any boards. So I'm glad that his rebounding is up. 5 rebounds per game, and he's also averaging almost 2 assists per game as well, which would be significantly higher than anything he's done in previous seasons. So Dre, he gets my player of the week vote this week because he's just flown by all my expectations I had from him. So hopefully it's sustainable, Mac, but I'm loving what I'm seeing from DeAndre, and I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing from DeJounte as well. I think that confidence is slowly starting to build up. And this is the DJ that we wanted to see all last season. He had moments where he was dropping 30 points, 40 points for us. And then some nights he would have like 12 points, 13 points. I want to see aggressive DeJounte for a full 82 game stretch. That's what's going to take this team to the next level. So I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to these next few games.
Oh yeah, man. It's going to be fun. I said this last year at this point in the season, I was like, it's going to be a fun season. It ended up not being a super fun season. I feel a lot different saying it this year, man.
Hey, the Quinn effect, baby. The Quinn
took the words out of my mouth, man. I literally was like, it's called the Quinn effect, man. It's called the Quinn effect. So
yes, sir.
So yeah, no, we'll wrap up this episode on that. As always, we want to thank you guys for giving us the support, listening to our podcast, reading our articles. Be sure to check out all of our articles at HawksFanTV.com. be sure to follow us on Instagram and X as well at HawksFanTV. That's where you'll find a bunch of other content. That's where we do our weekly spaces, as Alex mentioned as well. And I admittedly sometimes those get a little wild. So it's always fun, man. It's always fun.
Always a good time.
Oh yeah. So as always, thank you guys for support, and just be on the lookout for more, guys.
Yes, sir. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, baby.